everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are doing a currently reading update to chat about what I've been up to, what I've been reading lately. So far this month, I have already completed 3 books and DNF'd a 4th. So I'm feeling pretty good about that because it is more similar to my usual reading speed in a month. So I'm hoping that I'm kind of getting back in the swing of things. Work is still just a lot. Even now that I've been at this job for about a month and a half and I am liking it and I've been feeling like I'm starting to settle in a little bit more, but things just keep changing a lot. And so even though I'm a little bit settling in, it's hard to totally feel like I'm settling in just because stuff keeps changing a lot. And it is just a job that there's a lot of work. So it is still just consuming a lot of my brain space. But as I said, I feel like I'm settling in a little bit and hopefully getting back into the swing of my usual reading speed. Anyways, let's just get into the books. So the last book that I was reading was actually my DNF. So that was Miranda and Calvin by Jolien Carey. I was buddy reading this with Cara and we both DNF'd it. And so this is a retelling of The Tempest, and I really was hoping to love this because I have liked Jolien Carey's writing, even though I did DNF the Cushil's Dart series. I like her writing a lot, and so I wanted to read something else from her. And I have enjoyed other Shakespeare retellings before, so I was excited about this. However, obviously did not like this one. Her writing is still great. That's a consistent thing to me. That whatever, that sentence is fine, you get it. And so yes, I like her writing, but I really didn't like the characters or plot of this, mostly because in this, Prospero is the only character who really has any agency or control in the story, and he is the worst. Jolien Carey has very much taken the perspective of Prospero's the worst, which is a totally valid because he enslaves people in the story, and so I'm perfectly valid interpretation of that character. However, the other characters, they're just very passive because Miranda and Calvin, who are two of the main characters that we're following, because they have very little control, especially at the beginning where they start out very young, it just feels like the whole story is just about Prospero abusing Miranda and Calvin. And I read some reviews of it and it's it didn't seem like it was going to be resolved in any way or have any kind of satisfying ending to it. So in that case, I was kind of why am I reading this? I'm not enjoying it, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be resolved in a way that I like. So I don't know. I just was not enjoying this. I was texting Cara just list. I would read a chunk of it and just be all right, a list of 1 to 5 things that Prospero has done that confirm he is the worst, and just listing out stuff. It was just very frustrating, and I just wish that the other characters had been more active in the story. Even if they were not successful, I would have liked them to try to take action more. Anyways, this was a DNF. So for what I am currently reading, my main physical read is another buddy read actually, which is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. I'm buddy reading this with Jolien, and right now I'm not very far into it yet. I'm about 50 pages in. So what chapter is this? I read the first 5 chapters or so. This is a new release. I have heard some disagreement as to what kind of retelling this is, because originally I heard that it was a Red Riding Hood retelling. Then I've heard people say no, it's actually a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So far I've only seen similarities to Beauty and the Beast. However, I don't know if maybe Red Riding Hood will come in later on. But in this, there is a like magical forest, this like malevolent magical forest that houses what is called the wolf, who is actually a person, and he's kind of like the warden of this forest that is actually like, the forest is kind of malevolent, but also it is there to keep these like evil gods trapped. And in order for this whole magical deal to work, every so often, I'm not clear how often actually, but every so often, the people in the surrounding villages have to sacrifice the second daughter. So I think it's the second daughter of the royal family is sacrificed to the wolf and has to like go into the forest, and she is never seen again, and they don't really know what happens to her. And so of course the character that we're following in this is the second daughter who is about to be sacrificed. Her name is Red, and at the point where I'm at, because I'm very much like at the beginning, she has just met the wolf and things are not quite how she expected them to be, and I'm very intrigued as to like where it's going to go. So far, I am liking the writing in this. I think that the author is doing a pretty good job with doing like forest atmosphere, which I really appreciate. Always love good forest atmosphere. And I am really interested like where the story's going. I like the darker tone that this has. She also has this, she's been hinting at having this like darker magic and this connection to the forest inside her that she feels like she has to protect other people from, this like darkness within, which is a theme that I think is very interesting. So far, feeling very optimistic about this. The other book that I'm currently reading, actually I have two other books I'm currently reading. So the other one I'm reading right now is Into the Heartless Wood by Joanna Ruth Meyer. I am finally reading this because I have been saying I would read this for like at least a month or so, but I finally started it. However, I am not as excited about this one. This is another like very forest fantasy kind of book. This is also actually kind of a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I've heard it kind of be described as like a gender swapped Beauty and the Beast retelling where the beast is a kind of a tree person, and in it we're following two perspectives. One of them is a tree siren, so there is another like malevolent forest that in this is controlled by the witch queen, and she has created these tree sirens who like sing and lure people into the forest to their deaths to collect their souls for the witch queen. And so we're following one of those sirens, and the other character we're following is this guy named Owen, who lives just outside the forest because his father is like an astronomer, I think, and like reads the stars, and so they need to like live outside the regular town. One day Owen's younger sister wanders into the forest. He has to go and find her, and that is how he ends up kind of making a deal with one of these tree sirens. And of course they have a romance. I think later on like a war gets involved. I'm not really sure what happens. I'm not too far into this one either. Where am I? I'm about 70 pages into this. Anyways, I think the premise of this sounds interesting, and I am always intrigued by forest vibes. I have not been like super into the writing. There's nothing wrong with it. It just is not as atmospheric as I was hoping for. I started reading this physically. I think I might switch over to audiobook since I haven't been super into the writing of it. But I'm still interested in the story. So sometimes switching to audiobook just like kind of motivates me to move forward, and we'll see how it goes. And then the last book that I'm currently reading is a nonfiction book called Real Happiness at Work: Meditations for Accomplishment, Achievement, and Peace by Sharon Salzberg. So I'm reading this as part of some kind of some like research I'm doing for my job. Wanted to read this one. I've been meaning to read this book for a little while, so yeah, this is part of that research. So those are all the books that I'm currently reading. Then as for what I'm going to read next, so the next book I am planning to read, I actually do not have yet because it is a new release, which is A Song of Flight by Juliet Marillier, my most anticipated release of the year. I think that it is coming out like the 21st or 22nd of September, so it might be coming out the day that this video is going up. But I pre-ordered it, so I probably will be getting it like a day or two after. But that is coming very soon, and I am sure by the time I finish For the Wolf, A Song of Flight will be here, and I'm going to go directly into reading that, which I'm very excited about. Then another book that I am going to be reading, I guess it kind of technically counts as currently reading because I already started it, but I kind of put it down, which is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. I think I talked about this in my last currently reading update, but I haven't really made any progress on it since then because I kind of put it down for a little while for the same reason that I mentioned last time, which is essentially that the first like quarter of this book was following the main character while she was in a monastery, and I was actually very into that. If the whole book had just been about her like living in this monastery, I would have been super into it, but it started turning into more of a military fantasy. She's getting more involved with like the war and the army and all of that, which I'm like not as into. So I think this is actually going to be another one that I'm going to switch to audiobook, hoping that that will kind of spur me along and get me to a point where I'm more into it, because I still feel very optimistic about this book. I just am like less excited about the military parts of it. Anyway, so this is the next audiobook I think I'm going to be reading after Into the Heartless Wood. All right, so those are all the books that I am currently reading, what I'm thinking of reading next. I would love to know what you've been up to, what you've been reading, if you've been liking it. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.